To start this thing all over again. Now we're live. Okay, so Blog Talk, you get a double dose. Thank you. I also stepped away. When I stepped away, I did not get the message, but I got it now, and we're back. All right, let's try it again. Reiteration is the mother of learning. Anyway, let's go again.
People want to know how to stop the laziness, and they want to know how to stop the procrastination.
The Marines have a saying, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to die. And that's just real. At the center of bringing any dream into fruition is self-discipline.
Here's the next one, believe in yourself. Yes, you got to believe in God, and you got to believe in the community, and you've got to believe in the possibilities. You've got to believe in the economy. You've got to believe that tomorrow can be better than today. But here's the big one, believe in yourself. There isn't a skill you can't learn. There isn't a discipline you can't try. There isn't a class you couldn't take. There isn't a book you couldn't read. If it's written in some other language, you just get it translated and read it.
When you let the discipline slack, you know the feeling weak and defeated, and you know that you're falling behind. So get to know those two different types of feelings and ask yourself which one you want to feel in 10 minutes or in a half an hour. When the thing is done, when the discipline has been implemented, remember what that feels like, and then remember that those minutes and those hours, they turn into weeks and months and years, and holding the line in those critical minutes will put you in an infinitely better place, physically and mentally, if you maintain the discipline. So work through the weakness, fight through the temptation, hold the line. Hold the line, maintain the discipline. It is not easy, but it is worth it, because discipline equals freedom.
You know, something as simple as food and eating, it's not about your body as much as it is about your mind. It's getting command of your mind to be able to choose actions that are in your own best interest. Every day we are choosing that's not in our own best interest, right? So if the world is attacking you and the world wants to fight you and the world's trying to hold you down, so you're gonna kick yourself in the balls? So you're gonna stop yourself from getting what you dream. Self-discipline is the center of all material success. You cannot win the war against the world if you can't win the war against your own mind.
Ask for wisdom. This is communication of the highest source. Ask for wisdom. Ask for wisdom that creates answers. Ask for the wisdom that creates faith. Believe things are possible. In King Solomon's day, there was the dilemma of two mothers who claimed the same baby. And the question was, whose baby is this? This mother says, it's mine. The other mother says, no, it's mine. Solomon said, bring me the baby. They brought him the baby, and he raised the sword. He said, I'm going to cut this baby in half and give one half to this mother and one half to this mother. And as he raised his sword, sobbingly, the real mother said, no, 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 don't cut the baby in half. Give it to her, who was not the real mother. Solomon says, now I know who's the real mother. See, that is so wise. And the moment was such drama. But Solomon, the wisest of the wise, knew what to do to settle the deal. Ask for wisdom to deal with the challenges of today and tomorrow, to deal with the challenges your family brings you, Don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better. Here's the next one. Conserve your time. I must learn to do this. How much time have I got left? Not an unlimited supply. How many of these weekends can I do? Not 1,000. Just a few, maybe a handful. Sometimes we get faked out. Bill Bailey says, the average person says, I got 20 more years. No, Bill says you got 20 more times. If you go fishing once a year, you've only got 20 more times to go fishing. Not 20 years. That fakes you out. I got 20 years. No, 20 times. See, that brings it right down to the real stuff. 20 times. How many more seminars like this? Not 1,000. A few. Just a few. So would I mumble and stumble? Would I give you less than my best when I've only got a few more to give? And the answer is no, of course not. If you're a person of some dignity and quality, you wouldn't let that happen. Next, invest your profits. We're going to talk now about this before the weekend is over on financial independence. And I'm going to give you some excellent advice. Here was one of the philosophies Mr. Schoaf gave me, along with Mary Kay. Here's what he said. Profits are better than wages. Wages make you a living. Profits make you a fortune. Mary Kay and I went for that. Wow. Could we start earning profits while we're making a living? The answer is yes. I went berserk. Here's one now. Protect your family. These are troublesome times. Not that they haven't been troublesome times for 6,000 years. At school, troublesome times. I know a wonderful mother and a wonderful father who had 2 boys. In school, they went 2 different directions, and one became a model citizen and the other one went to jail. Wow. Protect your family as best you can from the hidden dangers, the lurking evil one. Here's the next one. Live with intensity. You might as well turn it up a notch or 2 after this weekend. Why not? Invest more of you in whatever you do. Be a little stronger, be a little wiser. Step up your vitality, contribution. Put everything you've got into everything you do, and then ask for more vitality and more strength and more vigor, more heart, more soul. Next, find your place. This one now is so important. If you just work on a job, find the best place where you can serve well. And sure enough, they'll ask you to occupy a better place. And if you keep doing the job well, the guy says, well, if I had a better job, I'd really pour it on. But I got this lousy job, so I just goof off. See, that's the philosophy of disaster. So you've got a lousy job. Do the very best you can. That's your best way out. Is not to do less than you could, but to do the best you can. With that philosophy, your life can take great leaps forward. Here's a Bible phrase that says, if you work on your gifts, they will make room for you. They'll make a place for you. Here's the next one. Demand integrity from yourself. You can't demand integrity from someone else. Integrity is like loyalty. You can't demand it of someone else. You can only demand it of yourself. Be the best example of loyalty, and you'll get some loyal followers. Be the best example of integrity, and you'll have people surround you that have integrity. Lead the way. Next, welcome the disciplines. Can't give you much better advice than that, because disciplines create the reality. Disciplines build bridges, build cities. Disciplines. A well-disciplined activity creates abundance, creates uniqueness, productivity. Next, fight for what's right. It's a fight we're in. The storyteller says, and there was great war in heaven. Wow, you mean way back there? Yes. 1/3 of the angels conspired. I asked Bill Bailey, how long do you suppose it took 1/3 of these angels to get together? Did they conduct meetings? I don't know. Bailey says the storyteller doesn't say. I said, then we're supposed to use our imagination. I don't know. It does say finally the great war occurred and the 2/3 prevailed and the 1/3 lost. One of the writers of later scripture, here's what he said: I fought a good fight. See, that's extraordinary to be able to say. I fought for my kids, and I fought for what was right, and I fought for my good health, and I fought to protect my company, and I fought for a good career that would bless my family. I fought a good fight. It's good to fight. The encroachment. Opposites are in conflict, and we're in the middle. And if you want something valuable, you got to fight for it. Then this writer also said, not only have I fought a good fight, and I'll finish with this, and I got a much longer list, but maybe I can cover these at another time. He said, I fought a good fight, and I kept the faith. See, that's the deal. Keep faith with your family. Fight like crazy and keep faith. Fight the enemy and keep faith. Fight illness and keep faith. Fight the evil and keep faith.
your mind. Don't let it take your mind. Come on, fight, come on. Come on, fight, come on. Take your mind. Don't let it take your mind. Yeah. Come on, fight, come on. Take your mind. Come on. Yeah. Don't let it take your mind. Yeah. Don't let it take your mind. We got to fight. All right. Shoot. Man, Bismillah. Let me get that out the way.
Man.
Let's get it in the way. We don't want to get it out the way. We want to get it in the way, right?
Right.
So we can be in the way, right? Alhamdulillah.
Ooh, well, we say in the Bay, that's the one that slap.
Yeah.
Slap.
Yeah, it's like
That's a slap.
and it's like it's timeless, right? I mean, Hijra stuff, propagator stuff, and I know that there are others. Y'all need to remind me. Send me those clips. Y'all know how to do all of WhatsApp and all the rest of the stuff. See if I'm missing one. That's and I know I'm missing them. Wilmar Siddiqui, he just stands out. You know, some beautiful things from Al-Mu'minun back in the day, and so many others. But you know, when you hear that the message, and then they say you got to fight, and Will Smith, he's checking back in. I mean, alhamdulillah, we all have our days, right? I don't know. Sometimes people deserve to be slapped, but I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Yeah, let's just take that as my comedic moment, because I'm not really trying to get all in that today. But the idea is that's a beautiful statement. You can't win the war with the world if you can't win the war on your mind. You fighting the world and you ain't even won the war on your mind. Come on now. That's a worthy statement. All right, and let me say to you and everybody else, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alhamdulillah. So obviously I'm excited. I don't know if it's just because you're here or it's just because it's going on, but you are the biggest part of it, if not all of it. And alhamdulillah, and it's that I'm excited about your journey. I'm not going to start talking about it any more than just introducing the idea. But of course, you and I spoke earlier this morning, and the issue of self-care, caring for yourself, and all that, and then of course the theme that we just played, speaking about self-discipline, and those kinds of things. And I felt that you connected a lot with that hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as did many people, that every day you begin the day as the vendor of your own soul, and you have transactions, and you either come back at the end of the day either having benefited it or ruined it. That's every day you go out with your soul, in your hand, and you're either adding to it or you're either taking away from it. So this is you can never be reminded too much of that. So that's where we are, and we let everybody know it's just going to be a conversation between her and I. We that you are listening in, and I am going to intersperse some instruction between her very exciting and informative presentation, but it's going to be a little give and take with her on the 80 and me on the 20, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So go ahead and talk to us about where you've been, what you've been doing. We missed you last week, and but your brother and sister-in-law was on last week, and they put it down.
Yeah. I saw the screenshot, but I wasn't in a position to listen to the whole thing. But I was excited to see it, so I'm gonna have to go back and revisit and read it. I am freshly, but there's a little echo. I don't know if you're experiencing the echo over there or if it's me.
Wait a minute.
The
Okay,
echo is on Blog Talk. It wasn't coming through on the Facebook live though.
okay, let me do this. Go ahead. Can you hear me now?
Yep. No
Is it
echo.
going?
It's better. Yeah.
All right, great. All right, thank you.
Yeah. So okay. So I was out of town. I went to Costa Rica for 6 days. And this trip was
Wait a minute. Some people may not know exactly where is Costa Rica. We know it sounds Mexican and blah blah.
Costa Rica is in Costa Rica,
on the map.
Oh man, across the globe, it is. Woo. You know what? I have not really looked at it on the map. As far as like which side of the coast is in the rain.
How long was the trip? How long was the flight? How long was the flight?
The flight there was about 6 hours. I did a stop in Atlanta, and then from Atlanta there was 3 hours and 25 minutes. So if I was to add both of those, it's about 6-hour flight. From starting here in California. So we were in the rainforest for a week. I'm a part of a sister circle and group of individuals that are just on the spiritual journey, the healing journey, the discovery of self, the self-care, the Central America. Thank you, Habib. Appreciate it. And so Costa Rica, there's a space, a retreat center that we had to ourselves called Imaloa Institute. And so it's just set out in the rainforest. And we just went through a number of self-reflective exercises and sisterhood and gathering that opened up a great deal of self-observation. Now, for me, I've been, alhamdulillah, blessed with the community that I'm a part of, blessed with the insight of my father and Imam to get to a place of really paying attention to each and every detail of your life. Because in paying attention to each and every detail, there's a conversation that is happening. And the conversation is our ability to recognize when there's a part of our lives, when we pray every day, like, in this, since we're talking about self-care, and this idea of self-care and this idea of self-love, like the trending thing is affirmations, right? People say you start your day with affirmations or act of gratitude and so forth, right? And that is good, right? The beauty of this way of life we call al-Islam is that Allah created this practice and ritual of salat that already incorporates any and all the things that you would need to say daily. And not only do you just say it once a day, you're saying it, inshallah, 5 times. And if you count each time, and I'm thinking specifically of Al-Fatiha, you're saying it 2, 4, 6, a minimum of 10, a minimum, right? So you look like 10 to 20, like if we did the math, this is how many times you are repeating these things, and you are asking. The thing that always stands out to me, and this is why I encourage everyone that when you having these moments of wanting to understand, like, okay, Allah, what do I need to understand about what I'm doing? Ask the question. Don't be afraid to ask Allah, like ask, right? What's always drops out for me, like draws my focus, is show us the straight way, the way of those upon whom you have bestowed your grace. This is what we say every day. Show us. Okay, so in the showing, and we know that one of Allah's attributes is that he answers every prayer. Are we paying attention when it is shown, right? And so to dive deep into life in that way, and I'll reiterate, go to the Imam's transcript about finding happiness. Like that has a lot of tools and tactics and things in there to better understand how to read your life.
Which Ramadan session was that?
I believe that was 97. I believe it was 97. 1997 or yeah, 1997. I got to look at the actual date, but it's called The Four Conflicts Finding Happiness is the name of that transcript. And so when I think about the different ways that that speak to the paying attention, we have been trained to let life happen to us as opposed to us exploring and experiencing the life that Allah has given us. And I have found that the real self-care is in listening, is in, you know, being the obedient listener, that when the answer is given, that you execute. And when he speaks about like what we listened to earlier about the discipline, right? That, you know, the imam, like I'm just grateful that Allah gifted us with the leadership that we have had access to. That discipline over, you know, through a colonized lens is looked at as punishment. You know, it's like discipline your child. Like, you know, it's like, and so the baggage that many of us have absorbed is through this lens of the structure is a punishment, when in actuality, the discipline is really a grower. It's a nurturer. It gives it order and form to it. I've been in here, I'm working on creating a class for a Ramadan session. And so I've been studying Hagar like intensely, really understanding it. And so the discipline was at the moment that Zamzam came about. The discipline was so that it doesn't flood, create a boundary so that we can benefit from it, right? It protects it, it gives it order and form, right? And so how could that be bad? Right? And it allowed it to us to further grow, right? When we think about the things that we commit to, is it going to be comfortable? It won't be comfortable, yet in you being obedient to the discipline and the structure of it. Yes, 2002. Thank you so much. Oh, we on point today. Come on, family. Y'all really in here today. Alhamdulillah. Welcome to the room. Okay, so with that, there was this weekend for me. I know the things that I have been praying for. I know I was very cleared out, what I have been praying for, and we know that the prayers of the traveler are answered, right? And so in my journey, like before we even started, a teacher said for us to create our intention. What is your intention for this trip? What do you want to get out of it? Before we even got to where we were going, to really think and set your intention for this trip. And so I was really clear. I wanted clarity. I wanted sisterhood. I wanted to relax. I wanted to unplug. I had a list of a lot of different things. So because it was in the forefront of my mind and vocalizing what it is I was seeking, it made my body look for the answers to the questions I was asking for. And it is in moments like that, we look at the gift of, balance, and this gift of how we have to learn how to get a moment where we can pay attention to not distracted by technology. So like as soon as I got back, the billboards, it reminded me very much so of how I felt when I returned from Hajj. Right. And when I returned from Hajj, it was like immediately all the billboards and the sounds and it was a different environment. And so it affects your waters. Right. And so coming back, I had to remember and remind myself of what the journey looked like. And so this one takeaway, which it is that I wanted to completely share fully, is we had to take this charter plane to get to the rainforest. Like we took the plane, and once we got there, we had to get on this tiny little charter plane. And I've never been on a tiny little charter plane before. And so they had to weigh your bags, weigh you, because it's very particular. Like, okay, how many can fit on? What can it take, for the flight? And it was terrifying. It was scary. And initially, before you get on it, it was just like, oh, okay, everybody excited. Oh, we're about to have an adventure. But then the reality sets in that you're about to get on this little charter plane through the mountains going into the rainforest, right? And they're frequent with rain and thunder and all of the things, all of the terrain. And so when we were taking off, it was like, I have never been so prayerful in my life, because you feel everything. But but in the midst of the flight, I said to myself, like, the goal, I know where it is that I want to go. And I trusted the journey to go. Why? Because someone had been there before me. That there was someone that had already done what it is that I'm seeking to experience. So I'm not going blindly, though my journey is still individual and it's still just mine. I see the evidence of the fact that someone has done this before, someone I know, someone that I'm familiar with, and they share with me what the journey is. They give me the information and all of that, right? And so it subsided my fear, but it also paved the way for me to explore and experience life, right? So when we think about something that we want to have happen or something we want to achieve, it's a good idea to find someone who is doing it, not someone who's thinking about it or I heard this. No, you want to see the evidence of the thing that you're seeking to experience. So of course I thought of Shahada, right? Like, I want to see the evidence of with someone who says that they are Muslim. What does that look like? And am I willing to my unknown journey towards this goal of understanding this way of life called al-Islam? Are they the evidence to where it's like, okay, maybe I do want to explore this idea a bit more, right? And so I was pairing that with the human experience and the spiritual journey, right? So once I got there, it was like it was worth the journey. Was it challenging? Was it scary? Absolutely. But once I arrived there, I thought about that I didn't allow fear to be the obstacle to keep me away from the destination, right? And so I take these little notes down, and when I first get a thought, I don't know where the thought is going to take me, but it's like, just hang on to that thought. It's like, well, why did you think that? I always say to myself, when I think a thought, why did you think that? And then the moment I say, why did I think that? And I may not have the answer immediately, I'm just like, just write it down, put it in your phone note, write it on your journal, because what you want to understand about that thought, it has not revealed itself as of yet, but hang on to that, right? And and so it wasn't until I got home and we had this conversation, you and I had this conversation in understanding a goal and an obstacle, right? And that the goal when you see an obstacle, do we look at obstacles as an opportunity or as a tool to get us to the goal? So when I have a goal in my mind, and you can expand on this more, because there's so many layers to this. Well, when I have a goal in my mind, at the time I have the goal, you have fun planning out, oh yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, this is what I could do to get, and then you execute it, and then you recognize the obstacle that was always there even before you set the goal. It was there, but now you have an opportunity to face it, because that's the thing that was keeping you from the goal that Allah said you have the capacity to face this, to go for this goal. So we have different stages in our life. Go for it. Come on.
All right, yeah, I'm gonna give you a chance to take a breath. Imam Habib said, "Watch out, make sure we don't start speaking in tongues, inshallah." So the spirit shows up. But I want to underscore, this will be a teaching moment, about goals and about utility versus obstacles, right? One of the things that we all need to understand and own is that whenever you have a goal and make a goal, and you have conscious goals, you have unconscious goals. I mean, if you talk about just going from where you are to the kitchen or where you are to the other room, another room in the house, there's a goal that's been mapped out in your makeup about that journey. You know, you are at point A wherever you are, and point B or the end of the journey is the room or the kitchen or what have you. And so therefore that goal sets a map. So now everything is a map, right? Everything, it defines terrain. It defines the terrain. Your goal creates a map that defines the terrain. And the definition of the terrain is that there are some things in the terrain related to the goal that the map says, well, this is an obstacle. And the other one is that this is a utility, right? And so, but when you change the goal, you change the map, then you change the definition of everything. And I know you have the story to go along with what I'm saying explicitly as regards your trip. So that's what we all need to understand, that while the reason that some things seem to be obstacles and other things seems to be opportunities, there's language, you have utility, you have affordances, and you have, opportunities as language, right? So the thing under one map or with one goal or a particular goal, that same thing that was an obstacle, it becomes a utility, an affordance, an opportunity. And so it's being aware of that. And so then when you get the feedback, as you proceed to try to achieve what it is that you're trying to achieve, the environment that you're moving through is giving you feedback. See that thing over there? Yes. See that thing over there? And then your goal will define that thing. Oh, that's an obstacle. It might look like an opportunity, but no, it's an obstacle because of how it relates to your goal. So much for that. Continue, please.
I'm writing the notes down as because it becomes this pouring that happens, and you're trying to keep up with all of that's coming down at the same time. Yeah. So even when you say like about the zam, like even when you say that about the obstacle, that the obstacle is, the best word that I could come up with right now is the gift. Why is it a gift? Because it is in that moment that you will gain a different level of knowledge as a result of that obstacle that you can now share. If that obstacle did not exist, it's not a learning, teachable opportunity for knowledge. So on this trip, I discovered a lot about how I see myself and who I am, right? And how I literally visually see myself and how I see myself just in how I show up, right? And so there was a point in this journey where I looked at myself and I wasn't looking at myself with through the lens of judgment, right? And it made me very emotional because it was like, well, what is different this time about how you're looking at yourself as before? Because I was utilizing the baggage of past experiences and other judgments of other people that I couldn't even really see myself because, my sensitivities were very much so under the scrutiny of other people, as opposed to really allowing that to be cleansed to see who it is that Allah created me to be. Not what society created me to be, not what, whatever the trending terms are for how Black women should show up and blah, 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 blah. It was like, okay, it was really an opportunity to fully see myself, right? And so I had to face, well, what are the lies that you've been told about what it means to be Muslim and how others say that we should, and especially as Bilalians, right? Because as Bilalians, we're never given, it's very rare that we have been given space to fully embrace the uniqueness of who we are, and as opposed to people wanting to shape us into what they say, well, no, Islam don't look like that, it looks like this, right? And to release those ideas and fully be able to show up authentically, and then ask Allah to give you the disciplines to keep it in order, to give it its proper form and shape. Because like, now I'm starting over, how do I give it its proper form and shape? And Allah's like, this is how, right? And it's in that, it's a constant learning process, constantly a learning process. And so the obstacle is the gift, because now we can have the conversation that we're having right now is based on looking at the obstacle and being able to say, okay, this is a learning opportunity. Like, I'm utilizing you to tell this lesson. So when we look at the stories of the prophets and the messengers in the Quran, the obstacles that they faced, it was a gift for them, so that we can take this learning moment, learn this learning opportunity. So Allah says, I'm going to entrust you, O Moses, with this obstacle. And the reason why I'm entrusting you with this obstacle is because now what you learn from it will be a learning opportunity for everyone who comes after you, right? And it's in those moments where we start to pay very close attention to how we show up. Do we look at the obstacle and him and and get upset and like, why me? Why that? This, it's like, oh, alhamdulillah. Like, Allah is entrusting me with something that I would have never chosen this for myself. I would never said, God, give me this. It's like, no, I know what you do not know. And I'm giving you this because it is now an opportunity for you to take that lesson, and it is something that you offer to the community. That is where the wealth and the legacy is available, because now you have been entrusted with something that will help, so to support the lifeline of others who come in contact with. So that's not the time. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to throw this in. I know I've shared this with you before, but the timing for sharing it right now is just so appropriate, right? We're talking about the gift of the struggle that God gives you, the gift of the obstacle. So, and that's really a critical thing. Again, we've already said about the map and how the map changes with the goal, right? It said, and there's a saying that says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change, right? The power of us to create the world that either releases the positive endorphins or releases the negative neurochemicals. It's all in our head. It's all in our head. It's like you can make yourself happy or you can make yourself sad, all with the way that you reason and look at and interpret things. Here's one. It says, when I asked God for strength, he gave me difficult situations to face. When I asked God for brain and brawn, he gave me puzzles in life to solve. When I asked God for happiness, he showed me some unhappy people. When I asked God for wealth, he showed me how to work hard. When I asked God for God for favors, he showed me opportunities to work hard. When I asked God for peace, he showed me how to help others. God gave me nothing that I wanted, but he gave me everything that I needed.
Everything.
That's how it is.
Okay, speaking in tongues. Listen, because it is in that like just what you just shared in my journal. I just started to practice, like it was just on my heart to start. So hearing that confirms what it is that I started doing. I started doing a thing where I asked my day. I made the request upon every day when I get up, what is it that I need today? Right. And that's a part that has become a part of my ritual. Right. And in the things that I ask for what I need, I pay attention to the events that were taking place in my life as he like, oh, this is how I'm getting that. This is how. So when I have clients that say, I want, I need patience today, I'll be like, be very careful with that request,
Yeah,
because
exactly.
the very thing you're asking for patience with is the thing that is teaching you how to be patient. So I want to be
Exactly.
patient with my child. Okay.
Yeah.
That very thing that so it's like you may want to reconfigure what you're saying patience is, because it will intensify the experience you're having, because you want to understand patience. So to keep it a whole buck, like right now, I'm an entrepreneur. I've been praying for wealth, like wealth in a way, like my prayers, like, oh Allah, bless me to gain more so that I could give more. Oh Allah, bless me to be financially responsible. I mean, there have been very clear goals, like of how to grow my business and things to do, and expanding my vision. The goal of my business before, it was comfortable. It was like, okay, yeah, I just want to make this much money, just enough to handle mine. And if the man should ask for a thing, it wouldn't be nothing to write the check, blah, blah, blah. Like that was it. And so my coach was like, if when you think of the vision, it don't scare you, you ain't thinking big enough. And I was like, okay, well, man, what does it look like to think bigger? And when I did identify the big vision, it felt like my whole body just opened up, because I was like, oh, that's big. And here's where it was that it was big, right? This is the part of the listening, the listening and paying attention, that Allah is so always so present in every thought, in every moment, that when we ask a thing, the answer is right there. Just be still enough to see it and receive it, right? So I was like, what came up for me when I thought about the big vision, I said, I want my company to be, I want us to be the hallmark of guided journals and of journals, right? It's like, why would I say Hallmark? Hallmark just does cards. Why was Hallmark the company that I could have mentioned there's a whole bunch of other journal companies that are multi-billion-dollar companies. But the word that came up for me was Hallmark. And so what did I do? It was like, well, go online, look up the history of Hallmark. Me listening, paying attention. I said, okay, let's Google it. The history of Hallmark, right? And so I started, and on their webpage, I didn't even expect it to pop up. On the Hallmark webpage is the history of Hallmark. I was like, okay, God, we about to do this, right? And so as I was reading it, I had uncontrollable tears. And it wasn't about their story. It was that the Hallmark that we're experiencing right now, the company that we're experiencing right now, was not the vision that they had when they started, right? This is a company that's over 100 years old. Started with them just doing postcards. Then when they did that, their entire mill burned down to the ground. It was gone. They had nothing left. Went into extreme debt in order to start to build it up again, because they were stuck. It was just like there were these big hiccup moments that happened. And so it was in that moment I said, why? I asked myself again, why is this making you emotional, Camila? And it was making me emotional because the vision that I have for this business, the seeds that I'm planting right now for this business and the vision that I have for it, I may not experience the fruit of this company that I'm building. And that's when it became real, where it was like, okay, this feels scary. This feels big, right? Because I have this vision in my mind, but I was on surface level vision where, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And I'm thinking that it's something that would happen within my lifetime, right? And it changes the trajectory of the focus of how it is that I work, because now you got to decide, is that what you're willing to do? Because then it becomes a matter of ego and a matter of duty, because your ego will be like, yeah, well, I want to see it all. Well, if I ain't gonna get that, then I'm just gonna settle and do this because I want this part of the life. But then it becomes, then that's when you have to check yourself and be like, okay, Allah, I don't know how it is. And then you receive that. For me, I received the clarity that, you know, you may not see it within this lifetime, but you'll have access to it and you'll still get the reward of it within your lifetime for what it is that you're choosing to do. So then at that point, it is, I trust you, oh Allah, I trust you, and I release it, and I'm gonna continue to do the work. But I have to be prepared for what that looks like. So in that, in sticking with, in coming back to the ideal of Hagar, right? The experience that she had in that moment where she was in the desert with no vegetation, just her and her baby, that when we go to Hajj and we repeat those rites, if you are not allowing yourself to fully recognize, like we doing this run on marble floors, it's covered, it's lit up, it's, you know, we're doing this in a comfortable environment. But she was given the initial responsibility of the obstacle of creating this opportunity for us to repeat these rites. And when she do it, she wasn't saying, okay, I'm gonna do this because then, you know, the Kaaba will be built and they'll be able to do the run that I did to ensure that my baby had water. No, it's like she was living life. Life was lifing in that moment with all of the other things that was going on in her life. It's like, you on the team? Yes, I'm on the team. Allah said, bet. Here we go then, right? This is what I am entrusting you with in that moment. So every one of us, there's something that Allah is entrusting us with. And we have to recognize and choose to be brave enough to take charge and take on the responsibility of what that struggle or that obstacle looks like, because the reward is still far greater than what we're experiencing right now in our human. Go ahead, Daddy.
Alhamdulillah. I was trying to get your link to your journals and also your business.
Oh yeah, Aisha's online. Aisha, if you don't mind dropping it in there, that would be amazing.
Yes,
if you have access to do so. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you're saying it all. In terms of the reality, everybody who does great things, they become great things after they're done, right? In the midst of it, you don't know how it's going to turn out. That's what makes it a trial. That's what makes it a test. That's what makes it a source of reward, because you're making that decision without knowing the outcome. You making that decision without knowing if it's actually going to become whatever it is I mean, when you talk about goals and the like, it's like, okay, and that's the idea. The idea is that the goal provides your confidence in the goal, your confidence in the plan. You have the goal, then you also have the plan that leads to the goal. So the idea is that so you can appreciate, you know where you want to go, you know what you're trying to do, but now you have to face everything you have to face in order to accomplish whatever it is there. And you're saying it all. You say you have to listen, you have to pay attention, you have to be intuitive, you have to trust yourself. This is why it's also, when you talk about self-care, trusting yourself is critical. And just let's slow down on that. Let's just take a breath and say, trust yourself, right?
Come on.
Why does that even need to be said? Because there are places where and times when we don't trust ourselves, and we can't trust ourselves, right? And so and also making that separation between, okay, trust myself. Who's involved in this? It's like, okay, there's me and myself, but who is myself? Okay, Nation of Islam. Nation of Islam would tell us that your true self is a righteous Muslim, and that's true. That's true. So who is that keeps getting in the way? Who is that keeps getting in the way? That's also yourself. But that's the self that has to grow. I do have to go a little slow on this here. Okay, there's the universal self that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that Allah created, nafsun wahida, right? Yeah, nas no, la. It's قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها. I'm just getting caught up. The blessing is, blessed is he that causes it to grow, right? Okay, so there's the universal self that is in toto. I'm going slow. There's the universal self that's perfect and complete. It's perfect and complete. You and I have a share. You and I are a node of that universal self. That is, you use language sometimes, tapped in, right? You're tapped in by the nature of your creation. I'm tapped in by nature, meaning we exist in totos. God says your creation, your resurrection is no wise except as one soul. So no matter how separate we feel, no matter how separate we sense, the fact is that we are all one, but each one of us have our individual connection with that universal soul, right? Now, some people's connection with that universal soul is stronger than others, and some people's connection with that universal soul is weaker than others, and that has to do with the purity of your own. When I say purity, I mean like clean, like a battery. If you've ever had an old car with an old battery cables, and the battery runs down, and you open it up and you look at that, man, what's all this junk on this connection here, right? You got to clear off that connection. You got to clean off that connection so the juice can come from the battery to the machine, right? Okay, so that's what salat and zakat does. Just since we're there, what salat and zakat does, it cleans off the cable. Or somebody knows better than me what the language is. You can tell them all. My daddy ain't never been no mechanic at any level. So the point, whatever that thing is called on top of the battery, clean that off. Okay, each one of us, we have to clean off that battery of ourselves so we can get a better and a stronger connection with the universal soul, right? So when the Quran says, "Blessed is he who causes it to grow," that is, you cause your socialized self to grow, so that you can get a greater opening to access what is innately in you, and at the same time in that nafsun wahida. Right, so it's like the nafsun wahid is not diminished by 7.4 billion people on the earth being tapped into it. It's not less. Right. It is universal. Mm-hmm. But everybody's connection to it is not the same. So the favor of Allah with the way of life, al-Islam, is that He's given us a way to get greater and greater access to the universal self. So the self that you got to watch, the self that you have to discipline, the self that you have to correct, the self that you have to purify is the self that the world made through socialization, right? 17th chapter, 84th verse of the Quran. It says that everyone acts according to the way that they've been socialized, and Allah knows best who is guided on the way, right? And so I mentioned this chimp paradox. I'm going to say it again since it's a simple connection right here. The chimp paradox, I represent because it's a model. It's just a model. Imam Muhammad, we talk about creation-supported social logic. And creation-supported social logic, what it does is you look at nature, you abstract the information that nature is communicating with you, and then you construct a logic, you construct an ideology, you construct a methodology that translates the nature's message into your life, and you apply it in the world, and you get the benefit. And that's the guidance. You're getting that guidance from Allah, who spoke it, quote unquote, through the creation, and then you abstracted it from the creation, and then you develop the rationale for it, and then you make it a model operating in the world. You talk about flying. You talk about flying, and I thought about the Wright brothers. one of the Wright brothers. That's a marvelous thing. We're gonna. I know I need to go back. I know what you're talking about. You get caught up, right? But this thing about the self. Let's get this self, the paradox out the way. And I will take a minute to get to the Wright brothers too. Okay, the chimp paradox. Now, in the chimp paradox, which is a model, this is a scientist who has done what I just talked about, but he's done it from his perspective, so he has this. You got neighbors? That your neighbors? I know you ain't got no grandbabies in the house, do you?
Oh, the kids outside. You can really hear them. Oh my goodness! I'm gonna close my window.
It's all good. Yeah. So the idea is that the chimp paradox. He says in his model there, and this is Dr. Steve Peters, right? And in his model, there's the chimp, there's the human, and there's the computer, right? The chimp, the human, and the computer. And the chimp, I'm gonna keep it simple for our translation for this time. The chimp is basically like the jinn. It's like the jinn, right? And again, recognize this: the jinn, all jinn are not all bad, right? It's not about not having a jinn or killing a jinn. It's about managing the jinn, controlling the jinn. So a part of controlling yourself is controlling, quote unquote, your jinn, but what he calls your chimp, right? Because there's a reactive way that chimps are until you train your chimp, right? When you learn how to train your chimp, then now, just like Solomon having a jinn in his council, then it's good. Mine is good, right? So, but it's only if you manage it, and you can only do that with the help of Allah. And that's another reason to practice al-Islam, so you can train your chimp, right? Or you can manage your jinn, right? Okay, so that's the chimp. That's the bottom line. The bottom is your impulsive nature. So that's the one that has to be controlled. That's the self-discipline, right? In the statement, it says, "How can you win the war against the world if you haven't won the war in your own mind?" Right? It's not your whole mind that you have war with. You're warring with your impulses that have not been domesticated, that have not been restrained, that have not been disciplined, right? So it's about learning how to do that. When you do that, well, then you got your chimp. Your chimp is on your team. So, but then you also have the human. The human of us, I would say, my quick definition of it in his model, the human of us is the Muslim, is the civilized person. Really, is because what the chimp looks for is trying to get rid of the problem. Beat it up, kick it, knock it down. Get rid. The human is always finding a solution, trying to find a solution. Trying to find a way that's good and healthy and useful and helpful. We also have that nature. So that's the human, right? But the human and the chimp sometimes are at war with each other until the human takes the proper charge of the chimp, as he should, by exercising the kinds of knowledge that's supposed to be used. Let me move on. So he also has the computer. So that's the third part of our makeup according to his model. The chimp, the human, the computer. Inside the computer, I'm doing all this talking to get to this point. Inside the computer, the way he defines it, you have goblins, gremlins, and autopilots. Goblins, gremlins, and autopilots, right? So real quick, I'm gonna go back to this. Tell us what we're looking at here. What are we looking at?
Oh, that's just the link to my journal.
Okay, so if people want to get your journals, they can.
They can click that link there.
Okay, I'm gonna leave it up for right now. So computer, right? So the computer is where our automatic behavior comes from, right? And depending on what's in the computer, that's how we behave most often. Right. So in the computer, goblins. What are goblins? Goblins are traumas, for example, that you've experienced in your life, and therefore you are a certain kind of way because of that trauma, and so therefore your behavior is tied to that that goblin, and they're very hard to change. Very hard to change. If they have brought into your life a way of seeing things that you can't seem to change or negotiate. People use language like triggering and things like that. But okay, so goblins, that's one thing. Gremlins are attitudes about things that actually can be changed, but they're just habits of mind that have come in consequence of okay, well, this works for me. Well, whatever, yelling at people, right? Yelling at people, becoming angry, or whatever. Comfort eating. Those things also come from that. That's a part of the gremlin, right? And there's an underlying assumption that says that it's the right thing to do. I do this because it's the right thing to do, even though it's not helpful. Okay. And so that's something but all those things are in the computer, right? So changing yourself, disciplining yourself is about changing what's in the computer, right? And when you learn how to change what's in the computer, then the computer will the autopilot. Wow, I didn't mean to say all this, but the autopilot is those good values that you already have. And let me say this in abbreviation, that everything we have in terms of hadith is that surely the best among you is best in the treatment of his guests. Surely the best among you is best in the treatment of his wife. Surely the best among you is the one who gives the greetings first. Surely the best among you is the one who was helpful, who's most useful to society. Those hadith of excellence and what have you, never does a believer begin an endeavor, but they seek to perfect it. Okay, in the computer, there's the one more thing is called the stone of life, right? And you can, for us, and the way that it's reading, it is our religion. It's the Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah. It's the thing which, if like he asked a question, he said, like, if you were on your deathbed and your grandchild asks you, what is it that I should pay most attention to in life? What, you're on your deathbed and your grandchild is asking you that. What advice would you give them, right? So whatever advice you give them, number one, that's from your stone of life, right? But also it means, since you're not on your deathbed, that's what you should be doing, okay? If that's the advice that you would be giving to your grandchild on your deathbed, that's what you should be doing. So the point is that Allah, his favor, Allah has loaded up our computer using his model. Our computer is fully loaded from the manufacturer with every way that we need to be. And it's really just about disciplining ourselves to what we have embraced. And we're going to be automatically successful. Go ahead. I know I went on longer for myself.
Oh, no. It's just so rich and in so many different areas and in so many different ways that it is, let me look at the notes that I did. I had wrote down about when you had mentioned about trust yourself and about the trusting of oneself. Let me fix this right quick. That in the trusting of oneself, one of the big aha moments I had mentioned to you on our drive, right? And the aha moment about that there is no spiritual growth without physical growth. Like if you on the team, like your body has to be present in it. It's not about, the floating and I feel all of the feelings of the spiritual rituals, and I live just there and not choose to engage this human experience as a part of my life as a Muslim, right? And we get it on the very essential levels of, we don't eat pork, we don't take in intoxicants. So we be hearing that part of it, but we don't be hearing about the part about how we exercise this muscle. Like Hajj is a physical ritual. It requires us to be physically prepared for the walks, for the sleeping on the ground, for the all of it, right? For doing the circulation of the Kaaba, to doing the run between Safa and Marwa. It is physical, right? And it is in combination with our spiritual growth. And so the thing that I always say to myself is that, you know, Allah said that He is breathed into us of His spirit, right? And that I am closer to you than your jugular vein, right? So at what point do we associate how we treat what houses, you know, a piece of Allah's spirit, that self-care? Like, how do we care? Do we want the heart to be clean in an environment where Allah's spirit is available, right? Do we want to use the best language? Do we want to eat the best foods? Do we want to be in an environment and a community that honors this vessel that Allah inhabits? You know, and I'm saying that, like, I want everyone to understand, because I know that there's this little gray area where folks will kind of go over to the extreme end of it, and I ain't talking about that, right? I am talking about honoring the fact that when we trust ourselves and we take this moment, that when Allah says to us that, like, and find that hadith of, you know, that He will look with walk with my hand and reach with my hands. But
yes. That's Hadith
right.
Qudsi.
So you know I'm talking about.
Number 15 or 25. Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yes.
I live by that. Yeah, go ahead.
So there's something within us that has to recognize that requires introspection. That requires us to go in order to bring it out, right? There's a principle called the bamboo principle, right? Have you ever heard the bamboo principle? The bamboo principle, it speaks about, you know, that before the bamboo even breaks ground, it takes 5 years, because it got to go down deep before it is strong enough to come out, right? And I'm paraphrasing here because there's so many layers to the idea, right? But let's take construction, right? That it has the depth has to match how high you want to go. You can't just go 1 foot into the ground and then create this high-rise building. You have to go down deep enough to where it matches the elevation, that it matches the growth, right? And in understanding that principle, there's a part of you that wants to experience and I'm putting this in air quotes because I want everyone to understand what I mean, to experience an ascension of this life, like a growth in life, this elevation of thought or self or of being, or this human experience. It is going to require you to drill down deep. Drill down deep where? Into yourself, and find those obstacles that have been in the way of you laying a solid foundation in order for you to go up. So as you digging down, when you dig down into the earth, you're going to find big boulders. You're going to find, okay, this got to get moved out the way. And when you find
dead bodies,
that's where the work is. Come on. What you got for me? Come on.
I know. Now I'm saying you're going to find dead bodies and all that. You know what I'm saying? It's like scary stuff.
All of it.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yes. And what is beautiful about that is that Allah made you aware of the work that needed to be done. We have seen, and we do see, and we have witnessed human beings that are walking around with a broken foundation, who refuses to dive down deep and clear out the muck and the messiness and the dead bodies and the trauma. And then they wonder why the life is not going in the direction that they want the life to go into, because you're scared. Scared of what? This is your task, right? And so this ideal of the fear, this is why the gift of this beautiful Quran, the gift of it, just like when I was given the story about me on that little charter plane, I'm scared. I'm like, what the heck? Right? It's like, but someone's done it. What you about to do, it's not new to you. It's been done. You are not experiencing some different growth or spiritual transformation or life altering, significant emotional event. It's not. It has been done before. And Allah has gifted us with the map that says, oh, okay, look at this. Look at this one right here. And I'll show you that I know this ride is turbulent. It's uncomfortable. You're scared. You don't know if you're going to make it to the other side. But I'm telling you, get on. Somebody already did it. Get on it. Pray through it. Get to the destination and see what's beautiful that's waiting for you on the other side of the work that you are now. Fear cannot stop you from living the full life, right?
Yeah.
So
let me bring this out of you right now. We're gonna close out at the top of the hour, or close there too. But I want you, because in what you're saying right now about the plane trip, and when we talked this morning, the idea when you talked about the trip down and the trip up, and how that relates to what we're talking about, because you just talked about digging down deep, and so the digging down is like the going down, but then you got to go down in order for you to come up. And so the way something looks going down, it's become something different coming up. So we'll work with that.
Yeah. So we did a trip down, a hike, which was a half-mile incline down, and it's not like no little slope. It was winding down in the mountains to get to this beautiful river waterfall. Just a nice little small intimate little space. And it was at that space, like the work and the effort that it took to get down in there, it was uncomfortable. But once we went in there, we saw, okay, this is what we literally had the conversation about. What is the things that we know about ourselves that we want to work through? And so that was the conversation, right? And then we celebrated in it, and we had fun in it, and we, it was community and the conversation, all of the things, right? And then it was time, once we was there, it's like, now it's time to go back and engage the earth. It's time to go back. You can't stay here. You got to take what you place here in this moment, and now you got to take it out. And so the way that the terrain of the space where we're at, they have a very clear principle about not disturbing nature, that they build their life around nature. They don't cut trees down. They don't move the roots there. So you always got to watch your step where you are. They lay rocks down, but it's not a paved environment. They did put like little bamboo as like handrails for different little areas and stuff, but it's like, we don't disturb nature. We are visiting their nature's environment. And so coming down, there's very steep steps. And so some of those steps you avoided because, one tumble, you're going to tumble all the way down. And plus it's moisture and so forth. And so on the way back up, the thing that was a challenge for me in getting down to the water, waterfall and the water hole, became a support for me in coming back up. The obstacle that could have made me tumble and really injure myself on the way to getting to where I needed to go became something that was stable to carry me out and back into the world. So it's like the lesson, like even in understanding that in the work that we do, whatever that work is, whatever you identify as your purpose or your gift, even, that thing sometimes will be avoiding the obstacle that happened in our lives because we are afraid of it's going to send me tumbling, right? When in actuality, that's the very thing that you need in order to give to the world, right? So that thing that you may be like, so I'm gonna make it personal, because I want you all to understand, like, that I've gotten to this point because I have a safe community, and a community of women who help me to work through the fear of certain things that feel traumatizing to me, right? Like, healing is not something you just do by yourself. Like, this is why Allah has blessed us with imams and those who move with integrity, and the scholars and people who have a certain understanding. It's to help us go to those difficult spaces. When you go to the gym, you have a personal trainer, because there's at a certain point you're gonna be like, no, I'm not doing that, because you're thinking about self-preservation. It's like, I'm not gonna lift that much weight. But the personal trainer is saying, I got you, I'm gonna spot you, but you need to lift this weight. That's why you have the personal trainer. Because if we had to choose it, we wouldn't put the incline on it. We wouldn't do nothing else. But the personal trainer is there to help you through that challenging, get you over that plateau. Same thing with the healing process, right? So even for me, so in that moment, what I had shared was that there was a moment where when I looked at myself through the lens of finding beauty within myself, not based on what others have projected upon me, but based on that, you know what? Like, Camila, you genuine, you really are beautiful. And I wasn't saying this out of convincing myself, and I'm not saying this out of this is no boast kind of a thing. It was really about me seeing myself fully, as opposed to, oh, okay, Camila got a little back fat here, or you got a lot of freckles. Oh, your eyebrows is bushy. Like, where did that come from? Where was this projection of beauty looks like this, it moves like that, is it like that? As opposed to really seeing myself and going, oh, yes, you are beautiful. Now the work is, how do I protect and preserve that? So it's like I had my mind shifted about the choices that like immediately at that point. I was like, certain stuff I just didn't. When I was in the airport, I didn't eat anything, because it was like Chick-fil-A was there, this was there. And normally Camila would be all in it. I was like, well, let me just find something. What can I have a little trail mix. That's fine. I want to give me some water. It won't kill me. I can hold off. I fasted before, because it was at that point, I was like, how do I preserve this thing that I identify as beautiful, right? And so now I can have a very different conversation. I put it on my social media. I had a different conversation with the women that I work with, and I'm like, what are you utilizing the language of those who have projected what they say you're supposed to be, or are you looking at yourself through the lens of how Allah sees you as his creation? Because it's at that point where you want to preserve it, and you're not speaking to yourself with abuse. You're not speaking to yourself in a space of there's something wrong with you that needs to be changed. Better yet, you're looking at yourself as, this is something that I want to preserve and grow. I want to nurture it. I want to be blessed with the thing that because I want it to grow. What? The beautiful parts of me. I want that I don't want the hurt parts of me to grow. I'm not feeding the hurt parts of me. I'm going to feed those parts of me that Allah has blessed me with.
Alhamdulillah. So is that those last couple of things that you just mentioned? You said who's projecting that on you? Who's talking to you? And especially when you're listening to yourself on the inside, those are goblins and gremlins, according to that model. Right? You have to know what your goblins are. You have to know who your gremlins are. They may speak to you in your voice, but they're not thinking the thoughts of your best your human self, right? And so it's about catching that and saying, oh, okay, that's it. Where's that coming from? All right, what's its foundation? Because every behavior rests upon a set of assumptions or some values that we've embraced, because for some reason, even if our interest was just protecting ourselves from whatever we thought was needed to be protected against, sometimes it's an unhelpful strategy as you move forward. Maybe at the time it was a helpful strategy and we get comfortable with it. The idea is, okay, now that strategy is not productive. It's not functional. And but it takes, as you say, it takes that listening, and it takes that willingness to face it. and see it, not as helpful as we used to think in our insecurities, but now it's an obstacle to our going forward. And so that becomes something that has to be moved out of the way. Well, all good things must come to an end, mashallah.
Yay.
It's always a pleasure, alhamdulillah, and I can feel the benefit felt by others who have joined us today. So mashallah. But I do have to say, we won't be here together next Monday. I myself am doing my little personal retreat. So there'll be no wealth creation preservation. You all can do something WCP oriented during this time. Since you won't be with us, keep the rhythm going in terms of that. Do something positive, constructive as it relates to your wealth creation preservation, and you're doing the right thing there. All right, sweetheart. Welcome home.
All right, Baba.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you.
You had an enviable journey. Alhamdulillah. May your journey continue and bear the fruit as hoped for. All right, everybody. Thank you. Everybody have a wonderful day. Allah's peace be on you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.